All right, y'all. So the very first skill that we are going to talk about, which is my favorite, is going to be communication skills, okay? Communication skills, I'm going to give you a scripture that's going to reference that and give you the definition, and then we'll go into how this can apply to your professional life and your personal life. So effective communication skills. So I have Colossians 4:6, which reads, "Let your conversations be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone." Okay. Now, communication is going to be the ability to express your ideas, listen effectively, and understand others, right? Whether that's speaking, writing, doing your body language, it's all about connecting with people and making sure that messages are literally understood on both sides, right? So when we get into leadership, when we get into learning how to express yourself when you are a leader, learning how to advocate, right, for yourself and your ideas and your team, right, learning how to communicate also with confidence, because you don't want to have those misunderstandings, because having misunderstandings literally can be a downfall in your business, downfall when you're trying to, just make certain decisions when it comes to your business, when it comes to, a personal decision for yourself as well. You don't want to also miss out on opportunities, right? And then start doubting yourself and stuff. So this communication skill is going to be a skill that you're going to learn, also be a skill that you practice, because this is not something that you literally learn overnight. This is something that you literally have to practice and that you have to master it, okay? It is not a personality trait. It's not something that you're, born with. Communication skill is something that you literally have to master. You have to learn how to do that. So let's talk about the different communication styles, right? And I'll just go over some of these things briefly. But you have like your verbal, your nonverbal, your written, and then your emotional connections. So when we talk about nonverbal, right? Nonverbal literally are like your facial expressions, right? Like if somebody is saying something to you, you don't necessarily have to say anything back to them. It's just your facial expression. It's your body language, right? Then you have your verbal. So it's how you speak, right? How you actually listen to the other partner. Okay. Then you have your written. So you also, when you are an entrepreneur, a leader, or a mentor, you're going to have to write, right? You're either going to have to physically write things out. You're going to have to, type emails, right? You're literally going to have to communicate in all different styles. And then you have your emotional piece, right? You have your emotional, I'm feeling upset. I'm feeling, angry, I'm feeling frustrated. And so when we talk and when we communicate with people, we also have to learn to understand when it comes to the emotional side. Okay, let's put our emotions to the side when we communicate, or depending on the situation, and I'll dive deeper into that, we can still keep the emotional side with us. So if we are, frustrated, angry, we just have to learn how to manage the emotional side, but still communicate effectively. So I'm not saying push your emotions off to the side. What I'm stating is, depending on the situation, sometimes it's just like, what, I'm frustrated, but this is not a time for me to be frustrated. Let me go ahead and put my frustration off to the side so I can handle this in an effective manner. Or you can be frustrated and just know how to communicate your frustration in a positive way. So it can go two ways. So I don't want anybody to be like, oh, she's saying eliminate your emotions. That is not what I am saying. I'm just saying, based off of the situation, things can go two ways, So when it comes to that, we literally have to learn how to communicate to our team, right? If you are an entrepreneur, if you're a leader, you have to learn how to communicate to your team. Going back to the emotional side, if you are frustrated, if you are upset, and your team member comes to you and tries to ask you a question, if you are frustrated on, something happening at home before you came to work, right? Like, your kids didn't put the dishes up, they didn't do the laundry. Like, you're so frustrated and upset with something that happened that went on at home. Now you're carrying that into the workplace. You're carrying that into your business. You're now putting that on, your team, putting that on the people that are working for you or those that you are working for. That's the part that I'm saying. Sometimes you got to leave your emotions at the door, because that is an emotion that happened while you was at home. It don't have nothing to do with work. It don't have nothing to do with your team. It don't have nothing to do with your leaders. And you don't want to communicate that, because if somebody came to you and had a question about their job or about their work, you still frustrated and so focused on what happened at home before you came to work, you can't effectively help your team member with what they're asking for. Now you're giving them attitude. You get what I'm saying? Your tone is changing, your voice is changing. And if you be like, what is it? You know, I don't know. Like how you communicate, they might be like, oh, okay, he or she's having a bad day. You get what I'm saying? But now you have put that frustration or that emotion onto them when they didn't even ask for that. You get what I'm saying? So that's the part when I say sometimes we have to literally just put some of our emotions to the side, leave it at home, and don't bring it into, you know, the workplace. So learning how to communicate when it comes to nonverbal, like our body language, our facial expressions. And I know for me, sometimes I don't even realize what I'm saying on my face until somebody actually says something to me. So that is something personally that I'm also working, you know what I'm saying, on myself. But we do have to understand and learn our facial expressions, our body language, right? Like we have to, and I'm not saying be perfect, but we just have to be, you know, cognizant of when those things are happening. It's kind of like, I wonder how my face is. Let me change that, right? Let me change my posture, because you want to look presentable. If you are a leader, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a mentor, if you are someone that, you know, is a boss that you want to use your gifts, your talents to, you know, help serve other people, you have to learn how to communicate in all different types of communication styles. Now, there are more things that I can talk about that goes into more of communication, but I won't go into that in the sake for this business execution framework. So we also have to learn how to communicate with confidence, right? Our voice, when we are, you know, speaking in authority, when we are, you know, and leadership is not always just about being somebody's boss, right? You can be in leadership and serve, right? You can be in leadership and you can volunteer. You can be in leadership and still don't necessarily be like, oh, I'm your boss, you got to do what I say, what I tell you to do. But if you are in that role, the boss, the manager, or whatever, you have to speak with clarity. You have to speak with authority. You have to speak with intentions, because again, and you'll learn when we go into the leadership module. The leadership module, I'm gonna let you know, guys, right now it's long, but it's very detailed, because I believe that communication and leadership literally go hand in hand. And I may have to literally do a whole separate entire course literally just on communication and leadership, because them two together sets the tone for everything else that we're going to talk about. But you have to learn how to speak with that authority and that intention, because your team, your leaders, people that are following you or underneath you, even if you don't have like your own business where you have like employees, right? Even if you are doing a business and sharing your gifts and talents online, recording content, you get what I'm saying? You doing, you know, YouTube or whatever, you still have to learn how to show up effectively. You still have to learn how to communicate, right? There's a strategy when it comes to communication and content and things of that sort. There's a strategy when it comes to being clear, being, you know, having that clarity, having that structure when I'm doing my content. So you have to just learn how to be confident in your voice, learn how to stick up for you, but also learn how to express yourself in a confident way, because nobody's going to take you serious if you are not even confident in yourself, right? Like if I came up here and I'm like, well, y'all, you know, communication is about, like, if I'm not even sure myself, how can you guys receive, you get what I'm saying, like that I'm sure? You're going to be like, what is this course about? She don't even know what she's talking about. You get what I'm saying? So you have to learn how to be bold and learn how to speak with authority and learn how to speak in confidence, even if sometimes you don't even know what you're doing. Even if it's sometimes you don't even know what you're saying, like still show up your authentic self and show up confidently, because people feed off of your energy, right? People feed off of that. Another thing I want to talk about is going to be active listening, right? So communication is not only just verbally, non-verbally emotions and body language and stuff like that, but it's also about listening. It's also about effective listening to your leaders and, to people who are also conversating with you, whether they're leaving a comment on your social media, whether they're, verbally talking to you through text messages, through emails, through, having phone calls on Zoom, right? All of that. You have to learn how to listen effectively, because a lot of us like to hear people. We like to hear people. We like to say, yeah, I hear you. But are you officially listening to what I'm saying? Because hearing and listening are two different things. Hearing you is, okay, using, my ears to hear what you are saying. But when you are effectively listening, you are listening with intentions. You are listening to understand, right? To comprehend exactly what it is that you are saying, so I can retain it in my mind and then actually answer the question that you are saying, right? Or just listening to what you are saying. So we don't want to just listen to respond. We want to officially listen to understand. And if it is something where somebody's saying something that you don't understand, it's okay to ask, like, hey, can you break that down for me just a little bit more? Right? Can you break that down for me just a little bit more? Because I'm not really understanding what you are saying. And I do that all the time. I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't get it. Like, I'm not understanding what you're saying. Like, I hear you, but I don't officially understand. And then we're going to move into communicating your vision, communicating your boundaries, right? This could go for personal aspects. You want to ensure that you have boundaries. You want to ensure that this is for personal and professional wise. You have to set boundaries. You have to set the standard, because again, your leaders and people literally are looking at you. You guys are looking at me. Right? So I have to come across as someone that knows exactly what I'm talking about, knows how to speak clearly. You get what I'm saying? Because you guys are looking at me in a way of, okay, can I trust her? Right? Like, does she know what she's talking about? Right? Is she going to be able to help me? So when you are in a position of, a leader, or you have your business, or you have your team, you want to ensure that you are setting the expectations. You want to ensure that you are setting the need and the purpose of your business, or the need and the purpose of your product, right? Because sometimes people are not going to understand what to do, how to do it. And so you have to learn how to show them, right? Communication is also about showing up. So for instance, if I had, actually, I can use this course for an example. The introduction model, like I told you guys, like what to expect from this module. It's not just, okay, hey, I'm going to literally read down 9 skills, hoping that you get it and go on about your merry way. No, I'm literally giving you physical, real life, experiences, and showing you and telling you, here is how you can apply this particular skill in this particular situation. So you want to set boundaries, set needs. If you are leading your team, you got to let them know what to do, what not to do. And then when they, rear off and, do something that they're not supposed to do, or, not following directions, or not following the policies, right? And the compliance that you guys have in place for your business, you have to know how to communicate that. Don't let these things slide, because if you let certain things slide, then people are literally going to continue to do what they want to do. So you have to stand firm and stand bold on your policies, your procedures, all of that. And if someone steps out of line, you need to pull them off to a side and be like, hey, and give them the policy. Right? Like, hey, we're not supposed to have our phones, on the floor. While you are working, you're not supposed, and I'm just using this as an example. You're not supposed to have your phone. If you need to, make a phone call, you can step outside. But while you are on the floor, unfortunately, you are not able to have, your phone on the floor, just literally texting and scrolling or whatever. You want to reinforce your policies. If you're working, with kids, y'all, this is a story that I'm going to share really quickly. I'm not going to say what company this was that I was working with, but I will say that I was working with a company that dealt with children. And some of the staff and employees, like the range that I was working with, let's just say, was from kindergarten to 5th grade. And so like these kindergartens and first graders, I mean, some of the staff, like, they're little kids. So some of them might pick the kids up. And I'm like, y'all cannot do that. Because what if something happens and then the child falls? Now, you get what I'm saying? You're now held liable and responsible literally for this child that now just got a broken arm. You get what I'm saying? Like it's just certain things. I won't say the name of the company, but just certain things that I literally would see that would happen in all of the establishments and all of the jobs that I've had, because all the jobs that I had, I literally was in some type of leadership or management role. And I would have to let them know, like, hey, unfortunately, you can't do that. Right? So set your boundaries, be straightforward. And then if they continue to do it again, then you got to pull them off to a side, have that hard conversation with them, right? Some of you guys are maybe working with children, so you may have to have a hard conversation with parents. I've had to do that as well. And when I say hard conversations, it's just like, all right, we got to have this tough conversation. Why? Because maybe your child has literally just done something that they shouldn't have done, or involved another student, and now you got to talk to both parents. And you have to have those hard conversations when you are in business, whether that's with kids, parents, your coworkers, even your boss, right? If you're working for somebody and your boss talks down to you, right? And you feel some type of way, have that conversation with them. Don't just allow them to do whatever it is that they want to do. No, communicate yourself. You have to advocate for yourself, because if you don't, people will literally continue to walk over you. So always ensure that you set the expectations for yourself, set the expectations for your business, lay out the foundation, lay out the needs, lay out the wants, lay out the policies and everything. And then if you do have to have those difficult conversations, do that and try to do that without fear, right? And I know sometimes it may, you may be a little hesitant to have those conversations, but that's why we're talking about communication skills and the different styles, and literally learning to, communicate effectively no matter who you come in contact with. Okay. So make sure you do that. One thing that I will say really quickly before I go into the different exercises and action steps for communication is, when you are having those difficult, hard conversations with your peers, mentors, leaders, parents, children, or whatever, you want to ensure that, I always say, and I learned this, the hamburger or the sandwich method, right? The first thing that you want to do is start off with something positive. Start off with something positive that they are doing. So if someone's working for you, you can always let them know, hey, I appreciate everything that you are doing, right? You come in on time, you're always willing to help. If I ask you, for anything, you're a leader, you're always willing to help the next person or help the new employees that come. Start off with something positive. Then the next is going to be your meat, right? Your meat, your cheese, your lettuce, tomatoes, all of that stuff on this sandwich, right? So the first thing was the bread. That was a positive thing. Now you're going into the meat part of your sandwich. That is where you need to have that difficult conversation. That is where you're pulling not necessarily everything that's wrong, but things that go against, your policies or the improvement that they need to do. So even though, you come to work on time and, you're a great asset to this company, unfortunately, we have to work on you being on your phone, right? Unfortunately, we have to work on, sometimes when you get, frustrated, we have to work on, you can't be, cussing and fussing at people in front of customers. And again, y'all, I'm using scenarios, real life scenarios that I personally had to go through. So you want to have that meet, have that conversation with them about the things that they are doing wrong, not in a bad way, but to let them know this cannot continue to happen, right? I can't continue to have you lash out, right, when something doesn't go your way, because you have customers, right? You have clients coming in, they're literally looking at you lash out, and you are a reflection of this company, right? Or you are a reflection of this brand. And so if you're the front line, right? So if a client or a customer comes in and they lashing out, they cussing and they doing all this, but they could be the sweetest person, know their job from A to Z, willing to help people, but they just have an anger, you know what I'm saying? A anger issue or anger problem. They are still a representation of your company. So whether the clients or your customers, if they don't ever meet the boss or the CEO or the founder of your business, or you, right, if you're a CEO, they're still a representation of you. So you got to cut the line. You got to draw the line somewhere, right? And have that conversation and say, hey, we can't do that. And if we continue to experience these problems, these are going to be the consequences. You get what I'm saying? You have to keep those boundaries in place and let them know straight up, this is what's going to happen. But again, it's all in how you say it and what you say. So that's the meat part of the sandwich. And then you're putting your next last bread on that sandwich. You are combining everything that you have stated. You're combining the positive, you're combining the improvements, right, which is your meat, and you're putting it all together, and now you're following up with some type of action plan. Let's see, for the next 2 weeks, we're going to work on your verbiage, right? On the next 2 weeks, we're going to work on, how you interact, with these customers when you are, frustrated and things of that sort. So again, these are just examples that I'm saying, but you get what I'm saying. You can still apply this to your everyday life. Build that sandwich, because that is going to help you state the positive, state the negative, the improvement, and then follow up with some type of action plan to hopefully see progress and better results moving forward. I hope that makes sense. So that is communication. That is communication style. That is communication skill. A couple of things that I do want you to actually do and actually put in place, because I told y'all this is not just a listen and learn. That I want you to physically do this. So I want you to record yourself explaining your vision in 60 seconds. I want you to come up with your vision, right? Come up with your mission, come up with your idea for your business, your gifts, your talents, all of the things that you have. And I want you to record yourself explaining that literally in 60 seconds. You don't have to post it. It literally can just be for you. But again, we're learning about communicating, right? We're learning about tone. We're learning about posture. We're learning about body language. So I want you to do that. I want you to, after you record it, I want you to look back at yourself and listen to how you sound. Look at yourself. How is your body language? How's your heart posture? Are you, leaned over? Are you get what I'm saying? I want you to basically assess the recording, because that's going to help you listen to yourself. Okay, well, maybe I shouldn't have said that, right? Maybe my tone should have been a little bit more authoritative. Maybe my tone should have been a little bit more softer when I said that. Use the recording. You can do as many as you want. And if you are okay with it, then yeah, post it. But if you're not, use it as a tool to guide you in the different, steps and things that you need to tweak when it comes to the communication part. I also want you to practice real live active listening in real conversations, whether that's with your friends, your family, your coworkers, whoever, right? I want you to practice active listening in real conversations and reflect. Did I literally just hear what they said? Did I understand what they said? Or was I just listening? Right? I want you to also write and rehearse a boundary setting statement. So if you already have your business, if you already have your idea, your plan, if you are already an entrepreneur, right? You know that you should already have boundaries and policies and procedures and things set in place. I want you to write and rehearse a statement. If you are one that does not have, right, your business just yet, I want you to think about the gifts and the talents that you have. Think about what business and idea that you want to execute. And then I still want you to write a boundary setting statement. A boundary setting statement literally is a statement where you're going to say A, B, C, and D, right? This is what we're going to follow. And then E, F, G, H, I, if we don't follow A, B, C, and D, right? That's how I want you to create your boundary statement. And then I want you to practice saying that. Practice learning, again, sometimes how to have those difficult conversations. And then I want you to do a communication reflection journal, right? I want you to be able to write the conversations that you have on a daily, right? Like I say, whether that's personal life, whether that is in your business, whatever. And I want you to reflect on how you are communicating with this person or these people, these group of people, or whatever. What is it that you're saying? What is it that you're taking in, right? What is it that you could have done or said better? How was your tone? How all of the things. If somebody said something about your facial expression, write that down, because again, you want to reflect on these things. And sometimes we don't know, we don't realize it until somebody says it to us, until somebody brings it right to our attention. So some of those action steps will be in your workbook. So please ensure for every module that you go through your workbook and just kind of follow along. And the other, different tools and resources and templates or whatever that will be included in this course, because all of this is going to be able to help you grow, move forward in being the best entrepreneur, leader, and mentor that you can be with these 9 God-given skills. So we are getting ready to jump into leadership skill. Remember, I told you leadership is kind of long, but it's really good. It's really, 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 really good. I break down what leadership actually is, because a lot of people think leadership is, oh, I'm your boss, I can get to tell you what to do, right? And that's not always the case. So I won't spoil it, but I will see you guys in the leadership skill. See ya.